Good morning, boys and girls. This morning I'd like to share with you one of mine and my children's favorite books entitled Euphonia and the Flood by Mary Calhoun. Pictures by Sims Taback. One time there was an old woman named Euphonia who had a broom, a pig, and a boat. The broom's name was Briskly, the pig's name was Fatly, and the boat's name was Mary Ann. Euphonia always said, "If a thing's worth doing, it's worth doing well." So the broom swept briskly, the pig lived fatly, and the boat floated nicely. Thank you. As for Euphonia, she did well by every living soul who came up her door path. But one time a flood came up her door path. All kinds of water sashaying out of the creek banks. Water, it whipped and swashed around until it came right through Euphonia's front door. "For a flood," she said, "that creek is doing right well, but we can't just sit here hollering for help. We'll go and see where all this flood water is a-rushing to." So the old woman packed briskly and fatly into Mary Ann, untied the boat, and pushed off down the creek. "Row, Fatly," said Euphonia. The pig took the oars and he rowed fatly. Euphonia took the broom and she swept the flood waters briskly, keeping the tree boughs and the trash from bumping into the boat. Mary Ann, she floated very nicely, thank you. And they all streamed down the creek neat as needles, without snagging up on anything. Euphonia smiled and said, "If a thing's worth doing, it's worth doing well." But before long she saw a skunk scramble onto a tiny island and just sit there, sopping wet. "Safe at last!" cried the skunk. "Safe nothing," said Euphonia. "Creek's on the rise, and what are you going to eat sitting there on a mud hump, maybe for days? Better pile in with us." The old woman caught on to the mud hump with briskly and held the boat there. "I'm better off than I was," insisted the skunk, patting the mud with his paws and staying put. "Silly skunk!" exclaimed Euphonia. "You'll either starve or drown. Lean over, Fatly." The pig leaned over fatly, and Euphonia swept the skunk briskly across the pig's back onto the boat. Mary Ann, she floated very nicely, thank you. "There," said Euphonia. "If a thing's worth doing, it's worth doing well." The skunk shook himself good, so they all got wet, and the boatload of them popped on down the creek flood. Pretty soon, the old woman saw 3 chickens squatting on a piece of henhouse roof. The roof was floating in the backwater of the flood. "You can't go nor come puddling around back there," called Euphonia. But the chickens clucked, "We're better off than we were." "Shiftless chickens," exclaimed Euphonia. "If you're going to be in a flood, you might as well see the flood where it's a-going. Why, you could even row that henhouse roof with your wings. Pull over there, Fatly." So the pig pulled over there fatly, and with the broom, the old woman hitched Mary Ann's rope briskly to the end of the henhouse roof. Then they all scooted down on the creek, boatload of 'em, with the 3 chickens in tow. The chickens, they fluttered and squawked about their fast ride on the flood, but Euphonia only smiled. "There, if a thing's worth doing, it's worth doing well." By and by they came to a bear. Old Bear, he was a-thrashing in the flood, clinging to a tree branch and shouting, "Help! Help!" But when he saw all that shebangin' a-swarmin' down the creek at him, boat, pig, skunk, old woman, and broom, plus a hen house full of chickens, the bear cried, "Keep away!" Euphonia called back, "We're your help. Climb right on in with us." But the bear paddled up a great splash, crying, "I'm better off alone. Tree branch, it'll save me." "Blithery bear!" exclaimed Euphonia. "A boat is better than a branch. Catch up, Fatly." So the pig caught up Fatly, and the old woman broomed the bear and his branch briskly into the boat. Old Bear, he settled in the bottom in one end, and he liked that solid spot there. Mary Ann sank a little lower in the water where the boat sat, but she still floated very nicely, thank you. "There," Euphonia smiled and said, "if a thing's worth doing, it's worth doing well." And they all sashayed down the creek, boat and broom, old woman and pig, skunk and bear a-holding on to his branch, with the chickens on their hen house roof squawking along behind. Right about that time, the whole scramble of them came upon a bend and found out exactly where the flood water was a-going. To Farmer Stump's mill pond. That pond, it was spread out over a fare-thee well, all over the holler. Bobbing on the water, there was every kind of animal riding out the flood. Squirrels on branches, rabbits on logs, hoppy toads on big leaves, and up ahead, the flood tipped over a waterfall. "Far enough," Euphonia called out. "Fatly, pull for shore." So the pig pulled Fatly for shore. There, on the high ground, Farmer Stump had set up food tables for all the folks who had come floating down in the flood. When she spied that, Euphonia said, "Now you see where the flood water was a-going? To a picnic, that's where. And we'd 'a' missed it sure if we'd 'a' stayed back home hollering for help. Very nicely done, Mary Ann. Thank you." So they all climbed ashore and stomped their feet on good high ground. The bear ate honey and biscuits, the skunk ate apple pie, the chickens ate cornbread, and the pig ate fatly of all of that, plus turnips too. As for Euphonia, she did very well by every living soul that bobbed by her on the mill pond. She broomed them out briskly because, she said, if a thing's worth doing, it's worth doing well. The end.